if Seresto collars are the most evil thing since white bread, what can we use? I started out with what does the EPA say? And really, where this started, there's a lawsuit about Seresto collars. And that some of those articles were here on the Center for Biological Diversity. And personally, and many other veterinarians have said, we've never seen a problem with them. But there are some very serious reactions that occur. So it turns out that it's something like 1,786 Seresto collars out of something like 25 million doses or collars that have been sold. So the percentages are super small, but it's horrible if it's your pet. And so that's okay. What is the safest flea control product available? And that is really hard to find out. So this Center for Biological Diversity is talking about what they think is causing the problem for so many reactions. And it is something called PFAS, which is per and parafluoroxyl, mouth of words, chemicals. And they are also called forever chemicals because they do not get out of the environment. They do not get out of our water system. And so the bigger problem than the flea collar is this stuff is in so many products. And because it is not regulated by anyone, although the EPA is starting to take responsibility for it, it has literally been sprayed over almost every state in the United States in various forms and another. So one is in mosquito control chemicals, one is called Anvil. They're horrible chemicals and they do not go away. And so we're faced with things like now it's in our seawater, and the sea spray is literally aerosolizing these PFAS chemicals. If you're hanging out at the beach, it's the same problem with everything else we worry about, like glyphosate, DDT. American children are born with DDT in their cord blood, and this chemical was banned in 1968 in the United States. Now it is still used in Mexico, and a lot of our produce goes north from Mexico into the US. But the issue is that it is in the water cycle, and that's part of what this article is talking about. Water evaporates, it goes up into the air, it comes back down as rain, and it fills up your local pond. But the problem is that this cycle of water has all of this garbage in it, and nobody's really sure how to get rid of it. I think in Massachusetts, they were horrified to find that this apparently innocuous chemical they were basically spraying their people with it. And so they're trying to figure out how to clean up their water. Florida is mostly in agricultural states. So Florida, California, much of the South, they include PFASs in so many of their products because nobody was tracking it. And the reason they do this is that it amplifies the ability of whatever chemical you're using to do its job. So it sounds great from the outset, but it's pretty awful. Even more difficult to search. So they have these things, the EPA has these things called data evaluation records, which are supposed to cover all of the flea chemicals. And to make a little further clarification, if your veterinarian has to write a prescription for something like heartworm prevention and any of the heartworm combo products, that is restricted. It's not the right word. It is governed by the FDA, the Federal Food and Drug Administration. If it is a non-prescription item, it is governed by the EPA. And various and sundered administrations have weakened the EPA based on what industry wants, so that they just don't have to follow the rules. The EPA was warned by Canada's Health Pest Management Agency that they would not approve Seresto collars because of the reaction rates that they were seeing. but it's just ugly. So anyway, the EPA has these things called data evaluation records because they got called to the floor on the spot on products. So things like Frontline, Advantage, Revolution, which also includes a heartworm prevention for cats. So that, again, that's FDA. But so they went through and were like, okay, what is going on? And they looked at each product. And then when you go over here to search the EPA records, they're retiring all of this information. So if you put in Frontline, you get some information, and then you have to go through and read each of these to figure out what is the actual reaction rate. But many of these things, when you click on the links, like this review, I think this one is still active, but many of them have 404 pages, meaning the information just isn't there. But this is what started all of the stuff with looking at flea control products. And basically they found this, that small breeds were more affected than larger breeds. And so as a result of that, they were supposed to create product sizes that were for 10 pounds and under when they didn't exist. So I think the majority of the spot on stuff is like 25 pounds, 50 pounds, and then 100-pound weight break. If you've got a 6-pound dog and you're giving it a 25-pound dose, that's a problem. They found with cats, and they also found with dogs, that owners were trying to split tubes up. If they had 5 Chihuahuas, they'd get a dose for a 50-pound dog. And if they were ballparking it, that's where toxicity problems would occur. With cats, their problem was more that they were getting exposed to dog products. So for instance, some of the dog products like Advantix contains a permethrin that will really wreak havoc for a cat. Even though you may have applied it properly to each pet, until that stuff dries, it has potential toxicity from your golden retriever to your cat if they hang out. And so they're like, okay, some of this is happening because pet owners are not being cautious, and some of it because they are not reading the label properly. And even the little pictures of the cat with the red circle with the bar through it, they said, okay, you have to make that bigger for people to see, because evidently we can't process what a label says on our own anymore. But then they said, now we actually have to determine the safety of these products who don't accurately predict the toxicity seen in the incidents that took place. And so they promised to do all this stuff, and some of it they got done, some of it didn't. But evidently there was enough industry money that really prevented any of these products from being recalled. So here's the news release about it in 2010. They say they're going to do all this stuff, and then really there's nothing else that happened. This page I wanted to put in, if you have a problem with one of these products for your pets, this is where you would report it. And the other issue is that because many of these are EPA products, the manufacturer doesn't really have to respond to them, which is super frustrating. Yeah, so it's just stupid. And then we know that our pets are pooping out this perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And some of it is coming from putting it on pets, and some of it's coming from the environment. And so really what this article is saying is that we can use pets as a sentinel for what we humans may have been exposed to. And then it's okay. We've all been exposed to this stuff, so now what do we do about it? And this is part of where this report came out in March of 21, saying that there's been a lot of deaths due to Seresto collars. There's a lawsuit where I think it's this organization, the Biological Diversity, actually filed a lawsuit against the EPA to get them to recall these collars. But the thing is that I think it's not just those collars, it's all of this products. Chalazone is what's in Bravecto and the oral flea stuff, and also Simparica, which can be applied topically for cat. And then Revolution has Serolaner as well, which is another one of these products. This has been black boxed by the FDA because of neurologic events, meaning seizures, tremors, things of that nature, even when given at normal doses. And this happens a lot on human medications, but literally there is a black box on the label that is like in your face. And if you miss it, it's your own damn fault. But basically it says this product has, or this drug has caused significant and serious side effects. And so you have to discuss with your doctor if the risks outweigh the benefit. And so meanwhile, back at the ranch, these are now the biggest selling products in the United States for flea control. So it's frustrating because the way these things have to work when they're given orally is it has to, for NexGard, that works for 30 days. For Bravecto, it works for 3 months, so 90 days. Your pet has to eat it. It goes into your pet's bloodstream. There has to be some level of fat storage for this to be released continuously. And the fleas have to bite your pet in order to die. Now, I think there is also transmission to the skin level because these things are promoted to help protect against flea allergies but what has to happen is that it has to prevent the flea from actually biting, because when the flea bites, the flea saliva is what creates the allergy. So it has to be on the skin surface as well. So that's super frustrating. So that means that all these families that started using this oral stuff because they didn't want to put the topical stuff and expose their kids to it, they're still exposing their kids to these products and to these medications. That one I went through, and we're gonna, again, I've got my research assistant going through all of the products that are out there and attempting to get safety reports from the manufacturers themselves, and then we'll go back to the FDA as well. But in the meantime, what actually is safe? And there are 2 things that you can use. One is Lufenuron, which is Program. The sucky thing is that in the United States, it is only available in combination with milbemycin and praziquantel. So milbemycin is the heartworm prevention that's in ivermectin and I think Advantage Multi. I have seen dogs develop autoimmune disease taking these products, this product in specific. So autoimmune hemolytic anemia, autoimmune thrombocytopenia. And so that's horrible. I think that you can get plain Program compounded. I have no idea how good or bad this company is. I think it's I'll get my assistants to contact reputable compounding pharmacies like Roadrunner, things like that, see if they can compound it or not. For cats, I think the injectable Program is still available, although the problem there is that it's been associated with vaccine-associated or fibrosarcomas, or actually more appropriately, it should now be called injection site fibrosarcomas. And then the other option for getting rid of adult fleas is Capstar. So do y'all remember this product?
Mm.
So it will kill every last flea on the animal. There is very low toxicity. So we could use this safely for puppies and kittens. And it says, even though this dose range is high, 2 to 25 pounds, for kittens that would come in just covered with fleas, we could break a tablet up and give it to a litter of kittens. They would be clear of fleas. And otherwise it may have taken us forever to get the fleas cleaned off of them. So I have had clients that managed fleas in South Carolina using Capstar only. I have also seen those same clients create some problems in their pets as far as toxicity, because they were giving it, like a 10-pound dog, the up to 25-pound size every day. And the way this works is it is a nicotinamide receptor agonist. And so what this client did was create the shakes in her pet, because it was acetylcholine and some other neurotransmitters were unable to adhere to it. We're back to when I first started in veterinary school, and this is on Petco, by the way, and I think this is available in almost every pet store. And it finally went over the counter probably a decade ago. But the frustrating thing is, all right, if you live in the Southeast where fleas are a super huge problem, what do? And I've told this story when I first started practice in 1990. Flea control was me handing literally a grocery bag full of pesticides to my client. And it was shampoos, dips, sprays for the pet, and then sprays for the house, sprays for the yard. And the volume of chemicals we were putting out just to get these guys under control was horrifying. And literally, we are now drinking that. It is in the water. Some of these were more pyrethrins, and so they do break down, but there a lot of them, as we got things that killed better, they don't break down as well. And so we're back to, what do? When program came out, it was a miracle. It really was a miracle, because it finally helped us break the flea life cycle. And I think that's part of where everybody has to head back, is interrupting that flea life cycle. So if you think about it, and there's a pyramid shape that's commonly depicted. The adult fleas are at the top 1 to 5%. The next 10% is the pupae, which are impenetrable. There's nothing that kills them. You have to wait for them to hatch out. And then the bottom 85% of the pyramid are flea eggs and larvae. So if we do things like, if I can get this to come over here, use Flea Busters products to treat in the house, in the vacuum cleaner, under the sofa cushions, and nematodes to treat the yard, the shady parts of the yard, then we're working on that 85% of the problem. If we can find compounded Lufenuron, I think that's also not a bad idea, and then use Capstar for cleanup, along with bug zone tags, essential oils. Amber collars are another one that people have been talking about quite a bit. I think that will help, but the issue is, especially if you live in the Southeast, once we blow up in your house, it is really a bear to get things back under control. And so, Jennifer, you were saying you live in Hawaii. Is that correct? You're still in Hawaii?
Yes, we're still in Hawaii, but our cats are all inside, so it's really bizarre that they even got the fleas. I guess I must have walked into the house with one from that being outside. I don't know.
That's exactly it. And when I was a young veterinarian in South Carolina, there was a woman that lived in this condominium building that did not have pets. And she came in to buy a flea bomb because literally they were coming the drywall, the inside of the wall, from her neighbor's apartments. So it's super easy to pick them up outside, take them inside to your pets if they are not outdoor pets. So this is unfortunately part of the deal. So for your situation, if you do environmental flea control, you may be able to get this under control pretty quick, give a few doses of Capstar, and then periodically retreat with things like the borax silicate crystal mixture that's in the Flea Busters powder. If you've got some outdoor space, retreat with the nematodes and go from there.